Welcome back. In this lesson we connect two worlds, your on-premises Active Directory and Microsoft Entra ID in the cloud. This is hybrid identity, and it's the backbone of nearly every enterprise running Microsoft 365 today. By the end you'll understand the sync engine, you'll be able to choose the right sign-in method, and you'll know how a device earns its cloud identity through hybrid join. We're going to operate this like engineers, not button pushers. Let's start with why. Most organizations didn't begin in the cloud. They have years of investment in on-prem AD, group policy, file shares, apps that authenticate against domain controllers. But they also need the cloud, Microsoft 365, Intune, conditional access, and that lives in Entra ID. Hybrid identity bridges the two so a user has one identity, one password, and one sign-on experience whether they hit a file share or a cloud app. The bridge is Microsoft Entra Connect running Connect Sync. The engine is not a simple copy, and understanding it is what separates a real engineer from a guesser. Each connected directory has a connector space, a staging area holding a snapshot of that directory's objects. Inbound sync rules project those objects into a central metaverse, the consolidated view that joins the on-prem user and the cloud user into one record. Outbound rules then export from the metaverse into the Entra ID connector space, and from there to the cloud. When you can picture this pipeline, you can reason about exactly why an attribute did, or did not, flow. Now the big decision: where does the password actually get validated? The first option is password hash sync, or PHS. A hash of the AD password hash is synced up to Entra ID, so authentication happens entirely in the cloud. The huge advantage is resilience. If your entire on-prem environment goes dark, cloud sign-in keeps working. It has the lowest operational overhead, and it's Microsoft's recommended default for most tenants. Note it's a hash of a hash, the original password is never sent. The second option is pass-through authentication, PTA. A lightweight agent validates the password against on-prem AD in real time, so no password material lives in the cloud, but it depends on that agent and your domain controllers being reachable. The third is federation with ADFS, where sign-in is redirected to an on-prem federation farm. Federation gives you the most control and demands the most infrastructure, so reserve it for specific needs like a third-party MFA provider or smart card-only authentication. For most people, PHS wins. On top of either PHS or PTA you can layer seamless single sign-on, or seamless SSO. This gives a Kerberos-style silent sign-in for users on domain-joined devices on the corporate network. They reach cloud apps without being re-prompted for credentials. The key thing to remember is that seamless SSO is not a sign-in method in its own right, it's an enhancement that rides on PHS or PTA. On modern Entra-joined and hybrid-joined devices, primary refresh tokens often make it redundant, but you'll still meet it in the field. By default the scheduler runs a delta, or incremental, sync every 30 minutes, processing only what changed. A full initial sync re-imports everything and reprocesses the rules. You trigger that after changing your sync rules. You operate this from PowerShell on the Connect server. Get-AD sync scheduler shows you the current schedule and whether sync is even enabled. Start-AD sync cycle with policy type delta forces an immediate incremental run. That's the one you'll reach for when a change hasn't appeared yet. Policy type initial is the heavier full run. Every object needs a stable source anchor, the immutable ID, so the engine always knows the cloud object and the on-prem object are the same thing. Modern Connect uses ms-ds-consistency GUID, a writable attribute that makes forest migration safe. When an on-prem object meets an existing cloud object, the engine tries a soft match on mail and UPN attributes. If that fails, you perform a hard match by setting the cloud object's immutable ID to the base 64 of the source anchor. And watch your UPNs, The on-prem UPN suffix must be a verified domain in the tenant, or users get stuck with an on-microsoft.com UPN. So how does a device earn a cloud identity? Through Entra Hybrid Join. A computer that's domain joined to on-prem AD is automatically registered with Entra ID, its computer object syncs up through Connect, and it then appears as a hybrid joined device, which means it can satisfy conditional access policies that require a managed device. You verify this right on the endpoint with dsregcmd/status. You want to see both Azure AD joined yes and domain joined yes. If Azure AD joined says no, the cloud registration hasn't completed, usually a service connection point, connectivity, or sync problem. Two operational pieces finish the picture. Entra Connect Health gives you cloud-side monitoring of your sync, status, latency, export errors, object-level failures, your early warning system. And for resilience, you run a staging server, a second Connect instance that imports and processes everything but does not export. It's a warm standby you can promote if the primary fails, and it's also how you safely test an upgrade or a rule change before it touches production. No serious hybrid deployment runs a single Connect server with no staging partner. Let's recap. Hybrid Identity uses Connect Sync to join on-prem AD and Entra ID through connector spaces and the metaverse. Password hash sync is the resilient, low-overhead default, pass-through auth and federation by use-specific control at the cost of on-prem dependencies. You operate the engine with get-AD sync scheduler and force changes through with a delta sync cycle. And a device earns its cloud identity through hybrid join, which you confirm with dsregcmd/status. Your task: on a test server run get-AD sync scheduler and note the interval, change a user attribute in AD, force a delta cycle and confirm it reaches Entra ID. Then run dsregcmd/status on a hybrid join device, capture the device state and SSO state sections, and write a short note on which sign-in method your tenant uses and why. See you in the next lesson.